A daring rescue, fighting in the hallways, unskilled marksmen, and a lot of people who don't seem to have peripheral vision. Am I talking about episode 4 or episode 4? Let's find out. Hello, and welcome to the Podcast of Champions. I'm your host, Lord Deathman, and on today's show, we're reviewing the 4th episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. From this point forward, there will be spoilers for part 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. If you have not watched it, go home and rethink your life. You've made it this far, but don't get cocky, kid. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's turn our attention to the arena now, where today we have 3 champions waiting to enter the fray. Today I have Biz joining us from the land down under. How you doing today?
Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. Oh, good evening, actually. Wherever you are.
Indeed, right. Morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. We're just ready to talk some Star Wars here. Grandmaster, our master of ceremonies, is joining us today. How are you doing, my friend?
Very well, actually. Had a great Sunday, and let's talk some Obi-Wan.
All right. And last but certainly not least, one of the newest champions to join our ranks, we have JB, aka Jeff. How are you doing today?
I'm doing outstanding, man. Good to see everybody. Glad to be here.
Yeah, always good to have you, Jeff. We're going to jump right into the conversation in just a moment. So we're talking about episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which kind of has this rhyming pentameter with episode 4 of Star Wars. A lot of the same things that happened in that particular chapter of the cinematic saga seem to have happened here. We've got some daring rescues. We've got some fighting in the hallways. A lot of people who don't seem to be able to see around corners. But that being said, guys, I want to jump immediately into some of the initial reactions for this episode. Starting with you, Biz, what was your hot and spiciest take on part 4?
I don't really have a hot or spicy take, but yeah, I liked the episode. I noticed some of the complaints. I can understand it. But yeah, overall, I like the episode. I like the undercover, like behind the enemy lines nature of the episode. So yeah, I liked it.
All right. Good to hear it. And for the most part, I agree with you. I think it was actually a very strong episode, but I do feel like there were a couple of pieces where it's like, they were kind of straining credibility a little bit, but we'll get to that in the deeper discussion. Thanks for your notes. Grandmaster, what was your initial take on the episode?
It was fine. It wasn't terrible or anything, but there were some things that did not impress me. Let's just say that. And overall, yeah, fine.
Okay. You didn't buy into the idea that you could use the Force to dry yourself off after immediately coming out from water?
That, among other things, or having 4 feet coming out underneath a coat, which are quite little, and you're looking for a kid. Yeah. But anyway, surrounded by like a few dozen stormtroopers and other personnel. Let's just say there was a lot of convenience in this episode. So,
indeed, I think our heroes benefited from a lot of plot armor this time around. But again, we will get to that in some of the deep dive discussion. Last but not least, JB, let's get your initial reaction to the episode. Good, bad, ugly. What did you think?
It was good, suspenseful. It was a very suspenseful, edge of your seat kind of episode. It kept you guessing what was going on outside of all the little, the small things that we all noticed that it's funny. But yeah, outside of all that, it was suspenseful. It was a little bit slower than episode 3, but it was suspenseful.
Yeah, not quite a filler episode, JB. I wouldn't go that far, which I've seen a lot of people saying. I do think it carried the story forward, And other than those silly little bits of plot armor, which we're going to get to in discussion, it probably is a strong episode. Not my favorite of the whole bunch, but I agree with you that there was a lot of suspense in there and that you were guessing right up until the end how it was going to play out for the characters. All right. That being said, now that we've got our initial reactions, let's go around the table and talk about highs and lows from the episode. What did you really like? What really stood out? And if there were any lows for you, let's talk about those too, and any other details you want to throw in the deep dive. And this time we'll start with Grandmaster.
Let's just get some things out of the way. At least explain why stormtroopers can't hit a dinosaur with the back of a banjo. Because they have poor eyesight. They just don't see anything. So they cannot aim because of their poor eyesight. I think it's a requirement. They test you on your eyesight. If you have very good eyesight, you're rejected for being a stormtrooper, I guess. Well, no, but without being silly, I agree with JB and Biz. It was suspenseful. There was a lot of good stuff in it as well. I really like the cloak and dagger stuff. What I must admit, the interrogation scene felt a bit cringy, if I can say that, but I think Reva, the character, is actually desperately trying to prove herself and get revenge from somebody or something, and that's why she's so intense. A little bit, she tries to be friendly towards the kid because she thinks she can get more information that way, but she's not able to do that actually. So. And I think she noticed that Leia's force sensitive as well during that interrogation. So she immediately moves towards the drugs to get the information out of her. But in the end, the whole plot, there's a lot of convenience. I can't get around it. I mean, she is easily distracted by a talk through, I think when you're so persistent to find Obi-Wan and to get the information about the path, then you won't be distracted by somebody who calls you up, especially if somebody is beneath you in rank, and go along with a clearly made up story. By Tala, was it Tala? It all felt a bit like, it was clearly written and it didn't feel natural to me. Seeing Obi-Wan fighting off water with the Force was cool, and I actually really liked that scene. As you pointed out, he was completely dry afterwards, which is a bit odd, but. But he should have been soaking wet anyway because he arrived also from underneath the sea. Yeah. Didn't leave a trail of water through the base. It's all that kind of stuff that makes it a little bit, I know the suspension of disbelief, but they did ask a lot in that regard.
They did. I agree with you 100%. And Star Wars is a franchise that does usually ask for you to suspend disbelief, but I think in this episode they did it maybe one or two times too many.
Let's just say I was more annoyed by all this than by shiny motorbikes in the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, yes, the kids.
I think shiny motorbikes on Mos Espa are more likely to happen than not seeing somebody carrying a watermelon under his coat with legs on it. So, I don't want to hash this episode apart because I did like it for the most part. So, but you asked for negatives. Those are my negatives. And,
right. And they're small given the overall quality of the episode, the suspensefulness,
absolutely,
and the character development.
I really, really, really dig Reva. I think she's a great character, a great addition to the Star Wars lore, and I really don't get why people complain about her.
Yeah, same here. I do think she's doing the best that she can with the material that's being given to her. And although interrogating a child, like when you cut to Leia, it almost feels like it's a Saturday Night Live skit where there should have been an adult in that chair, but for comedy, they put a child there to get a laugh out of you. But, you know, they both do the best that they can with the material and the scenario as created by the writers. But anything else to add, Grandmaster, before we take a...
No, I will gladly let Biz and JB talk this episode up so people forget my negativity.
Indeed, indeed. We'll start with, we will move on to JB to get your take on this. Let's get your highs and lows for the episode and tell us anything else in between about the details that struck you about this chapter.
My highs would be some of the scenes between Reva and Leia when she's interrogating her, and how we see the Force in Leia, how she's able to ignore Reva's advances trying to get into her mind.
Right.
I thought that was pretty neat. So we saw that, and she's definitely, you see the fighter in her. You know what I mean? The rebellious side of her, you can see that, and she did good at that. And I liked the tomb scenes. I thought that was kind of neat when you saw the tomb with all the Jedis down there. We'll talk about that later, but I thought that was pretty cool. It brought back a lot of stuff, but it was awesome, man. And when the good part is like when we see Obi-Wan enter the chamber where Leia's captured or being held, and all you hear is the lightsaber fire up, and you see the color, and bam, the action zone. Then it's like, wow, So it had its good points. Some of its low points is exactly what Grandmaster was talking about. Like we were saying earlier, is kind of obvious. But that's Star Wars, and they get that. We get that quite a bit. But overall, I enjoyed it, man. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Tell me something.
I think the acting is awesome. I think the effect is awesome.
Yeah.
It was kind of oddball, but that's to be expected.
Do you think that the fact that they have these elements in Star Wars, like I said, in A New Hope, you have this daring rescue, you have hallway shootouts, this really felt like it was rhyming with episode 4. So I kind of played on that at the beginning of this episode 4 and episode 4. I mean, are you tired of that kind of storytelling in Star Wars, or do you think that they are managing to still pull it off circa 2022, even though we first saw something like this in 1978?
Well, I think they're still pulling it off. I would never be tired of it.
All right. Spoken like a true fan.
I mean, I would never be tired of it, but I mean, because, I'm 52 years old. So, I mean, I was 7 years old when Star Wars came out, so I grew up with the toys and all that stuff. So my imagination runs wild, when I see Star Wars stuff. So, no, I would never grow tired of it. I might disagree with the way they do things, but that's okay. I'm just a fan, I enjoy it.
Yeah. And it is okay to disagree with things. So, JB, you are absolutely right. And I really like your attitude and positivity. Thank you so much for those notes.
I remember being a kid. I was so fascinated with the stormtroopers. I thought the trooper uniform was just so evil, back then.
Yeah.
Them and the Battlestar Galactica the cyborgs, I think that's what they were called. But anyway, I'm rambling.
But no worries. I'm a closeted collector of troopers myself. So like any new variant on a trooper, I will buy it and try to find a place to display it. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not for fascism, but troopers are okay. But thank you so much, JB, for the great commentary there. Biz, let's get your highs and lows, last but certainly not least, and talk about any other details of the episode that really stood out to you.
Yeah, like everyone else mentioned, it was a great episode in terms of the behind enemy lines, and also Jeff mentioned, it was very suspenseful. Good word to use. That's how it was the whole episode, because because they didn't know what was going to happen. But then again, in saying that, like right from the beginning of episode 1, like there's obviously plot armor with Leia and Luke and Obi-Wan because nothing's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
Because of the future movies.
Yep.
For obvious reasons. But yeah, like overall, the general episode, I really liked it. Reva, yeah, that scene with her and Leia was, I know, it felt a little bit flat. I'm not entirely sure if it was the acting, probably the writing.
Yeah.
I know, I know Reva is a bit, I don't know, like she's fine, but I know, I just imagine like if it was like, for example, like when I compare her like to say, for example, like Tala, like her actress, obviously that actress is much more experienced than her, and she just elevates the material. I'm wondering if she was in Reva's, like if she was Reva's character, she would have been, I think she would have done a better job. I reckon they could have also focused on the other Inquisitors a bit more. Maybe that's a problem too. Instead of just solely focusing on Reva. I get it is easier to focus on one Inquisitor. That way you're not all over the place, so to speak. But I guess I think they could have done a little bit more with the other characters. Yeah, like that was ridiculous. With Leia and Obi-Wan like smuggling her out. That's that's next level dumb. I mean, like this is
you could have put her in a knapsack, right?
Episode behind enemy lines, and then you come up with that crap. Like it's really bad. I'm being a bit savage on that, but it's really bad.
Yeah.
What else is there? Oh yeah, the tomb. Yeah, I guess we need to speak a little bit more on that. That was surprising actually. I know it was Fortress Inquisitorius or whatever it's called, but it was interesting to say the least, but a bit, I guess, heavy-handed in terms of like they're already like bad guys. But yeah, it was interesting to see that, and then obviously there were Easter eggs. I'm not entirely sure about all of the people that were in the behind the glass, but yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, like I said, interesting to say the least. I think there's not much more to add. It was cool, like Grandmaster said, with where you use the Force to hold back the water. One of like the more powerful ways to use the Force. Yeah. But apart from that, I did like the episode. Apart from that, a couple of the silly things that happened, for sure.
Yeah, I happen to agree with you a lot that fifth brother and fourth sister really deserve a little bit more than just making empty threats or cowering here. They seem like visually interesting characters, and you kind of want to see them do more. But hopefully for you and me, Biz, we'll get some more action from them in 5 and 6. We've got 2 more episodes to go.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah. That said, we had a note from Grandmaster. You've had your hand up patiently. What did you want to add?
Yeah, isn't the problem with Reva and the character? I don't think it's the actress. I think it's the fact that we don't know her background yet and why she is doing what she's doing. I think that will explain a lot and really fill in that gap and deepen the character for us. And I think we really need that background in the next episode. So the finale is not bothered by that. So I hope the writers give us that in episode 5. I think then the appreciation for Moses Ingram acting achievement is going to rise around the fandom.
I agree with you, and I really do think that Moses Ingram, to be sure, is an incredibly talented, beautiful, physical young actress who is handling the material that she's been given, I think, as well as she could. And I think, a lot of people want to look to her to say that she's the problem if they're having a problem with it. But I also think you need to look at the writing, because the writing hasn't given her much of a motivation. The writing is sometimes, I don't want to say it's mustache twirling, that they give her a lot to do without really going into a deep dive in the character. So you could really split the blame, if there is any to go around, I think, between the people crafting the story and the actor, who only, at the end of the day has the lines to go on. So I kind of agree with you there, Grandmaster, if you think that is the case.
Yeah, we must not forget that she has the full background and the full story of her character. So she knows what to put into that into her acting and to make it believable. Only the problem is we don't. So for us, it's like she's over the top, she's cringy, she's fake or whatever, but we don't know what's going on inside her head yet, and she does. So
Yeah.
Let's wait and see after we got the 6 episodes, and we hopefully get a full story for Riva, a full background story for Riva, and I think then the pieces of the puzzle will fall into its place, and then it all will make sense.
Yeah, I agree with you there, guys. Thank you for this incredibly thrilling round of discussion that we've had about episode 4. I do want to take us into our next segment of the show. Always exciting. But before we do that, I will go around the table and grab the ratings from you guys. So on whatever scale you use, 1 to 10, 1 to 5, whatever you want to count, we will take ratings now before we head to the Cannon Fodder segment. Starting with you, Biz, on a scale of 1 to 8 interrogations, child interrogations, 1 to 10, or 1 to 5, 1 to 8, whatever you do. What did you think? What's your rating?
I'll put it down as 7.5 child interrogations out of Inquisitors.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a very fair grade, given what we're up against in this episode. JB, on a scale of 1 to 10 child smugglings, what kind of grade would you give this episode?
Man, 2.
You 2, meaning 10 child smugglings is the highest in the scale if you're going with a 10, or 5.
2 would be the lowest absolute. 1 would be just terrible, but I'll give it a 2 because there's no way you're going to sneak across that flight deck with big of a bulge, that many stormtroopers walking around, and nobody noticed that. It just, I just found it hard to believe.
Yeah, that was hard to believe. But for the episode overall, JB, what was your rating? In all seriousness,
I'll give it an 8 out of 10 overall.
Okay. Yep. Again, that seems very fair and almost maybe even a little bit of a generous rating. Now, of course, turning to the Grandmaster, how many? Let's see. How many Inquisitors can you give on a scale of 1 to 10? With 10, the maximum amount of Inquisitor intrigue. What's your rating?
Yeah, I got to take off like 4 Inquisitors out of 10 because there was a little bit too much silly going on. So I'm going to rate this episode a 6 out of 10. Still a pass, but
yeah. It's a squeaker for you, though. It's a squeaker because they're just one right above like being an average episode.
Yeah. But I liked it too much to give it a negative mark, but there was too much silliness to go higher than a 6. For me, personally. So 6 out of 10.
All right. You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen in Fandom Land. The panel has spoken. We now conclude our review of the episode, and we're going to move in to the Cannon Fodder segment, which we alluded to a little earlier on.
Cannon Fodder.
So for those of you who don't know, this is the show segment where we pit the champions against the fandom in a high-stakes game of speculation. We select 3 of the most fantastic theories making the rounds in social media and on the interwebs in general, and we ask the champions to provide a buy, sell, or hold rating for each one of the theories. Champions, are you ready for this round of Cannon Fodder? All right, then let us begin with the first theory. We'll start with you, Biz. The theory is, this is a warm-up theory. It's a softball. Leia will use the Force before this series ends. Leia will use the Force in some display of theatrical Force usage. Are you going to buy, hold, or sell that theory?
Yeah, because I was actually thinking about that when what's her name, Reva was interrogating her. Maybe she could like kind of force block entering her mind or something, because she did mention how like she was difficult to.
She was difficult to read, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So I if she's going to do something beyond that, it's possible. So yeah, I'm going to say hold. I'll hold on that theory.
Okay, we've got our first hold on the Leia will use the Force theory. And I do want to circle back to just a second when we do see her block Reva from, entering her mind and seeing her thoughts. We don't know if that was something that was passive or if that was something that Leia was initiating herself proactively. So it's hard to say whether that was a usage of the Force or whether it was just a fact that she's got a high midichlorian count and you can't really break through her mental defenses. But what we're talking about, or at least what the fans are talking about, Biz, is her showcasing some use of the Force in a way that you would traditionally see it with the Jedi. But all right, we've got your hold rating on that. And Grandmaster, what do you think about this theory? Leia will use the Force before the series ends.
I'm gonna sell on that.
Okay.
And it's a sell out of hope, because if they will show Leia using the Force, it will break canon. And then, the Star Wars fans who are already
enraged,
let's just say divided on Obi-Wan show, will no doubt tear the whole office building of Lucasfilm down. So and burn the Skywalker ranch of
and
George
they won't
Lucas
use
himself.
the Force to do it. They will not use the Force.
No, just gasoline and a match. But
we blow torches.
Although the gasoline is so expensive nowadays, I don't know how they're going to do it. But anyway, that's another discussion. No, but I'm going to sell, and I'm selling this out of hope.
Okay, that's a sell. JB, it's up to you. Do you believe that before the end of this series that Leia will use the Force? Are you going to buy, hold, or sell on that theory?
I'll buy it.
Oh, wow. We've got a buy. Okay.
I'll buy it.
Is that an enthusiastic buy, JB? It took you a couple of seconds.
Yeah, it's an enthusiastic buy. I kind of feel like we may have already got an idea of that with the interrogation scene, but I'll buy it.
Okay. All right. That ends our first theory in our first round of Cannon Fodder. Moving on into our second round with our second theory, starting with you this time, Grandmaster. The theory goes from the fandom that another Jedi will make an appearance on this show. And the Jedi in question is none other than Ahsoka Tano. I don't even know if that lines up with the timeline correctly, but I will let you decide if you want to buy, hold, or sell on that theory.
Ahsoka is definitely around, definitely. And she knows Obi-Wan, of course. So I can see that as a tease towards her own show that's coming up later. I think this year even, or next year, early next year, something like that.
Yeah, early next year, I believe, yeah.
So I would definitely buy that. So yeah, I'm going to buy this fan theory. Ahsoka will show up.
Okay. We have in the marketplace of fandom theories our first buy. The economy is looking strong. Biz, you're following up now. Are you ready to buy, hold, or sell on the theory that another Jedi will appear in the show and that Jedi will be Ahsoka Tano?
I'd like to see her. I always like seeing Ahsoka Tano. She's a great character. We've seen her in Mandalorian, so I don't think she'll appear necessarily in this series. Like, there's 2 more episodes to go. I mean, anything can happen, but yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to sell.
Okay, that's a sell. All right. JB, looking to you for the final verdict on this round of Cannon Fodder. Will another Jedi appear in Obi-Wan Kenobi? And if so, is it going to be Ahsoka Tano? Do you want to buy, hold, or sell on the idea that she's going to make an appearance?
I'm going to sell it.
Okay, that's 2 sells. The fandom loses out on this round.
Jedi.
Indeed. Grandmaster, you had another note to add on this theory?
Yeah, it could also be Ezra Bridger that shows up.
Oh, very true.
So but if you're saying, will another Jedi show up? I believe so. Ahsoka Tano is likely more. I would be the more likely choice because Rosario Dawson. Well, if you can showcase her, why not? And she has her own show coming up, so that would make sense. But if you want to get the fans back on board with the show, Ezra Bridger would be a good cameo.
Yeah, very good observation there. And we, as the champions, reserve the right to alter the scoring depending on which Jedi makes an appearance, if they do. Yeah, fandom, you're on notice. All right, guys. Let's get into the third and final round of Cannon Fodder. Our next theory: Reva will have a moment of clarity, and her villainy will come to an end. We're going to start with JB on this particular theory. Do you believe that Reva will make a 180 and turn from villain into hero by the end of this series? Buy, hold, or sell?
I'm going to hold.
Okay. Hold. That sounds like a very wise choice in this situation. I think if I weren't the moderator, I would be putting this in my portfolio as a hold. Wouldn't sell any of the shares that I have in this already. Thank you for that, JB. Moving on to the Grandmaster. Do you believe that Reva will have this incredible moment of clarity and that her villainy will come to an end as she sides with the heroes before the series is over? Are you going to buy, hold, or sell?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and buy it. And my thoughts behind this is that she has some kind of beef with Obi-Wan, and at a certain moment, Obi-Wan will reveal the truth about things to her, and that will make her turn on Darth Vader. And I think she will sacrifice herself for Obi-Wan.
Indeed. All right, we've got a strong buy here from the Grandmaster on this theory. Biz, that means it's up to you. Do you believe that Reva will make a 180 and go from villain to hero before this series is over? Are you buying, holding, or selling?
Yeah, I'll buy that too. It does seem like she's overplaying it in terms of like the villainy. And then also did she have that kind of like where she kind of paused for a few seconds when she saw that symbol on that wall? Yeah, so I could see that happening. Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with Grandmaster that she could turn good. How it happens, not entirely sure, but yeah, I'll buy it that she turns away from the dark side.
All right. We've got 2 buys in this round and 1 hold, and that concludes this round of Cannon Fodder. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, champions, for sounding off here. At the end of the series, folks out in fandom land, we're going to see how the champions did against the fandom when we tally up all of the scores there. All right, moving into our next segment, which is the lightning round. I've got some very, very specific questions for each of the panelists here with regards to this episode and the series in general. I'm going to start off this round with you, Biz, in terms of the first question, because I think this is a question that I think is almost tailor-made for you. But what is the secret of Fortress Inquisitorius? Do you think it has anything to do with the Emperor's cloning experiments? Because we're seeing these Jedis in these tombs, their bodies have been preserved. Do you think the Jedi might be harvesting, or rather the Emperor might be harvesting Jedi midichlorian? What do you think? Are they trophies? Do you think that there's another meaning that we might get before the series ends for the tomb?
It's hard to say. Maybe it could be something to do with the Death Star, maybe, or maybe something to do with Snoke, because Palpatine did survive after all the way till the end of Rise of Skywalker. So, yeah, could be anything down there, really. Cloning, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. It's hard to tell, but I do hope that they go a little bit deeper into it because they gave us like a tantalizing look at this tomb. But Grandmaster, you had a note on this. Do you want to add to the discussion?
Didn't we see this kind of stuff as well in season 2 of The Mandalorian? When they were at that base in that episode where they had that the chase scene in
you're right.
So
there were
there were some people persons on water there as well, and I think Biz is right. It does have something to do with cloning and maybe Snoke. Of course, Snoke wasn't in the planning at that moment, but with cloning, the Emperor has interest in surviving. So
yeah, and it could explain why the Emperor seems to consistently be the most powerful Force user in this universe, outside of, say, someone like Yoda. So yeah, a lot of interest and focus from the fans on the tomb. We'll see what comes in the upcoming episodes. Moving on to JB for our next lightning round question. This one, JB, I want to give to you because I think we know that Obi-Wan and Vader are going to have some type of a second or third confrontation. Do you think Obi-Wan is going to win in his next confrontation with Vader, or do you think he may come out the loser?
No, I think it'll probably be I think he'll probably come out. It'll be a win for the fans, but like a win as far as like for Obi-Wan, probably not, a win for him. It'll probably be more like a tie between the two,
Right.
They say that because in Star Wars, when he meets Obi-Wan in the movie, he says, "So we meet again," when he's talking to Obi-Wan. So that makes me think that, there'll be another fight between them. There may be several,
kind of skirmishes.
Yeah. But I think it'll be a win for the fans, but I think it'll be a tie. Because I think something will happen that'll pull them away from each other. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Lightsaber interruptus. Yeah, they won't be able to. There we go.
Kind of like they did here with the two ships coming and firing at the Inquisitor at Riva and drawing the attention away and getting them out. Something like that where it'll come in between, so there won't be any way for either one of them to die or get injured, real bad.
Right. All right. Either way, we do hope that the next confrontation with them is exciting. We see that Obi-Wan is getting his groove back on in part 4 of the series there. He's definitely getting his Force skills back up. He's definitely getting his saber usage back up as well. So hopefully it'll be a good one. All right. So our third and final question in the lightning round goes to you, Grandmaster. This one is a bit esoteric, so follow me down the rabbit hole here. But we know that in episode 4 of Star Wars: A New Hope, we see Vader and Obi-Wan fighting, and Obi-Wan says something to him to the effect of, if you strike me down now, I will emerge more powerful than ever before, or more powerful than you can ever imagine. And I also hold that thought, and I also want you to go back to, say, I think this was the Last Jedi, where we see Luke Skywalker use a new Force ability called Force Projection, where he projects a hologram of himself, if you will, via the Force to another location. A lot of the fans are beginning to speculate that perhaps Obi-Wan used Force Projection in that final fight with Darth Vader because of the way he managed to disappear out of his clothing, so forth and so on. Is that too Star Wars nerdy for you, or do you think you could buy into that theory?
I don't know. I really don't know.
It's a tough one.
I kind of hope it doesn't. You know what I mean? Because I like the sacrifice that Obi-Wan makes in A New Hope. Basically, he sacrifices himself so Luke and Leia can escape. So yeah, I kind of hope they don't change that.
Yeah, that they don't change it. And I'm with you there. And only because for really selfish reasons, the cloak was still left behind. You know, if it's a force projection, you should have been able to project that cloak as well. I see Biz nodding along here. He agrees with me.
Yeah.
So
I just hope not. Let's just. There's a lot of hope going on, but that's shooting. that fits because this episode was clearly a parallel to A New Hope. So
yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for entertaining my questions in the lightning round. Guys, unless you have any closing comments on this episode, I think we can close out this episode, or this review rather. How are you guys feeling? Have we talked it all? Has it all been said? Right on. All right. So,
Lord,
I'm sorry. What was that, Jeff?
Question real fast.
Go ahead, please.
Does anybody have any theory as to who the Jedis were that were entombed? Like the little youngling looks real familiar to me, but they spent a lot of time showing us each one of those Jedis in the tombs. I did notice that, but I couldn't make out
like who they were, right?
Right.
I feel like one of them was a character from the animated series, but I don't know all the names. The alien-looking guy with the kind of elongated face, JB, I do think he was like a character from like maybe the Clone Wars or Rebels. I'm not sure.
The youngling in there, the one they showed the youngling with the helmet.
Yeah,
he looked familiar to me, but I can't figure out what episode. I want to say it might have been the Clone Wars,
right?
Or it may have been Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I'm sure if we go back online, JB, someone has figured it all out, grabbed some stills and put names to all those faces. One of them even looked like, and this is going to show that I'm like a Star Wars tourist, but one of them even looked like Mace Windu to me. I was like, is that Sam Jackson? But clearly that Jedi had two arms, so it couldn't have been him, because we know Mace lost his arm in see, I know something about Star Wars history. There you go. Perfectly qualified to moderate this show, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. All right, but great question, JB. So that I think we'll use that to close out the episode here. And though we have to say goodbye for the summer, I promise you this: the champions will be back. Thanks to the panel and to the listeners for joining us today. And remember, you too can join the conversation on sakaar.freeforums.net, our message board. A lot of great people, great community, great fandom. Also, be sure to check us out on Twitter and on Facebook and our newly launched TikTok. Check it out. Until next time, may the force be with you.